So, today on our critique series we have the Reverend Richard Hainsworth.
First impressions of Richard, I absolutely love him. But also I swear a lot. And I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to help my potty mouth. I'm just going to have to keep apologising to him.
Rich is a regular to the studio. I love his vibe, I love his kind of ideas, they're pretty cool. But if you've ever wondered what a priest shoots when he picks up a camera, especially when it comes to portraits, then stay tuned. Roll titles. So if you're not familiar with these critique videos, which I've only done one, I'll leave Tim's in the description, so that will explain more about what's going on here if you're not fully familiar. So for now, I'm going to run Rich's website in the background as I read a few questions, just get to know him a bit better and let you know his answers. So yeah, what is your favourite thing to shoot? He says, I tend to have phases where I focus on a genre or two for a few years. I've been into astrophotography, macro, wildlife, landscapes, all sorts over the years, but currently studio portraits are my main focus. For reasons in my other email. I'll best pull up his other email at some point then. Do you prefer natural or strobe light? I like the control and options you get with strobe lighting, but I'm also interested in combining flash with the continuous and or natural light in single shots. Yeah, dragging the shutter, they call that technically. We have done that many a time in the studio with Rich. Any photographers that you follow, look up Nick Fancher, Lindsay Adler. I'm familiar with Lindsay. She does a lot of, I think, YouTube and Facebook type stuff. Bill Wadman, Ian Hippolyte. This is not good for my ability to pronounce names. Elizaveta Porodina and Rankin. People's work I enjoy looking at and have taken inspiration from in terms of look. So interesting, because I do see Rankin in a few images you have sent me to look at, so I will cover that in a bit. I was going to mention that. I love Ben Zank's Surreal Concepts 2 and Macro Wilm's Powerful Street Compositions and Martin Roth's Abstracts. Okay, I don't know who half of these people are, so you know that goes to show just how I just live in my own little world when it comes to photography. Photography love. When a moment happens and you get to capture it, yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm not much of an event photographer. I do events. I have done events in the past. And it's those little smiles. I love the candid moments, that just a smile that makes you smile when you look back at the photo. You don't even know the people in the image particularly well. You're just at an event covering it for people. And yeah, it's that little wry smile, and it brings a smile to your face as you are like looking at the images later. That was a bit of a stumble. But yeah, you get what I'm saying. Either a chance coming together of events and composition in the world, or a creative moment in the studio and a model or a prop or a friend's input, or my sudden random idea comes together in something unplanned but is satisfying. I'm also now combining planned elements with the deliberate inclusion of chance, such as through movement of lights or fabric to generate something unpredictable. What grinds my gears, now this one's going to be fun because I've already kind of pre-read this. He's going to moan at me not liking Photoshop. Don't understand that, really.
Sorry, Father.
Working with limitations you choose to put on yourself can be creative, such as shooting black and white or with a 50mm lens. But it irritates me when someone takes one of those self-imposed limitations and elevates it into a virtue that all photographers must follow to be a proper photographer. Now, I never tell people they have to do something, so I'm with you on that. I think everyone has their own style, and it's important to understand your own style and enjoy your own style, but equally it's important not to necessarily appreciate a different genre that doesn't really do it for you in terms of, in fact, I'll phrase that wrong. I can appreciate it when someone is very good at Photoshop, if they are very good at Photoshop. If they're bad at Photoshop, but Photoshop's a thing, then for me, I couldn't see it in my own work. It just doesn't work for me. It's not something I'm going to enjoy doing. It's not something I'm ever going to do. It's not something I look to do. So whenever I critique it and I'm like, man, I don't like this, I don't like that, it's because I'm referencing it in terms of my own work, not because I'm putting the person down who I am talking about. Anyway, although post an image and say that's straight out of camera, as it makes them look Mommy special boy. There's nothing wrong with preferring to shoot out of camera JPEGs, but processing it just as another tool. Yeah, I don't think it makes any sense to shoot JPEGs in 2025. You want to shoot raw. Even if someone's saying it straight out of camera, 9 times out of 10 they are putting raw processing on it, because unless they are literally shooting JPEGs, of which your camera is putting processing on it automatically by your default choices from the back of your camera, you are indeed processing an image even when it's straight out of camera, because a JPEG is processed. There's nothing wrong with preferring to shoot straight out of camera JPEGs, but processing is just another tool like a softbox or reflector, and it's just what I enjoy using. If someone else prefers a wet plate camera, a darkroom or a slide film or whatever, all power to them. Yeah, so what I said earlier, you know, each to their own. You know, you haven't got to necessarily enjoy someone else's output in terms of it being part of your workflow, but I tend to find that I appreciate it more in other people, and if I did it to my own work, I'd hate it. So that's where the bias and that's where the dislike comes from. Let's check out his other email, because he's touched on some questions. He preempted questions based on Tim's video. In fact, I might be able to scroll down. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, general introduction. I take photos because I can't paint. Yeah, I remember speaking to him about this. I take photos because I can't draw. I would love to be able to draw. I'd love to be able to sing. I can't sing. I can't draw. I have no intention of learning to draw. I have no intention of learning to sing. I take pictures as a creative output. I used to play in bands. I used to be a drummer. I got bored of not being able to conduct a narrative. As a drummer, you're part of the rhythm section. You're rarely the main writer. You're just kind of there to keep beat and do whatever. And I needed a creative output, and I got bored of the music industry. I left the music industry, and I was like, I need an output. And I was surrounded by photographers, because you get photographers at gigs, and a lot of them became friends, and it was something I always had an interest in but never really considered because it was probably expensive and was alien to me. And then one day I thought, fuck it, sorry father, I'm gonna get a camera, and that's how it started. Completely self-taught from there. Just learn from the internet, learn from ebooks, and yeah, just, you know, start your journey. If you ever want to do anything, the first step is literally the first step. Just take the step and don't care what anyone thinks. I do this purely for a hobby, for a number of reasons. Maybe because the images are fun, geometrically satisfying or cool. Often because they express or explore narrative, emotion, concept, philosophical idea. Again, as I said in Tim's video, that all the things I look for in a photo. I can't take a photo just for the sake of taking a photo. It just doesn't interest me. Unless, ironically, I'm out and about and I'm just doing like travel photography, and then I'll photograph any old crap that just catches my eye. I enjoy that for some reason. I don't enjoy the editing. I've still got images from like a year, 2 years ago that are just travel pictures that I just can never be asked to sorry, father, edit, but I enjoy taking them. This includes darker, more existential themes, because I think it is good to have a creative space in which to take the darkness out and examine it. Which is cool. I particularly enjoy studio photography at the moment because many years of photographing things on my own. I love the collaborative aspects of the studio, working with models as creative partners, with you on lighting, and often with photographers including Tim, sharing ideas, inspiration and bouncing ideas off each other. It has made photography a less lonely activity. Oh, and there's no such thing as too much Photoshop. Yeah, again, a little stick it in there. I thought a father would be a... no, I don't take it personally, don't worry. No more than hopefully you don't take my comments personally. Another relationship down the drain. Okay, so these are comments he's made on the images he sent me, so I'll bring them up when I look at them. So let's get to them. Okay, so I'm just jumping in quickly to let you know that if my videos are just like too much, I'm just speaking too fast, you can't understand me, you can slow them down by about 25% like this. I also have subtitles, and they're in about, I don't know, 15 different languages, so you can stick the subs on, and I just do it so I can get through as much as possible, as quick as possible, without making the video too much over half hour, because half hour is still quite a lot, to be honest. But I like long form videos. Let me know, do you like long form videos? Anyway, back to the video. So, I'm going to do something a bit different with this one. I'm going to probably put the images actually in the video opposed to screen recording as I look at them. There's a pro and con to that. The pro is I can look at a different screen that I'm also screen recording side by side without ruining the visual, and comment on what Richard's told me about the image. The con to that is I won't have a mouse, so I won't be able to skim the screen with the mouse, and you won't see me clicking on things. But I don't think I'll need to, because I've quickly scanned the images. I'm not sure if there's anything I'm going to particularly point out in terms of, let's bring this in, and if I do, I'll try and explain it verbally, which as a dyslexic is not great, but you'll get the idea. So I'm going to keep looking over here because this is where the screen is. So I often obscure parts of the faces of people to reflect the difficulty of making direct connections with people and really seeing them. It also breaks up the familiar lines of a face. These images use card cutouts and shoot-throughs inspired by Rankin. The model is Sukinia, and it's at RC at the studio, which is Rio Colette, I believe. She's been here before. So yeah, funny enough, you should mention Rankin, because the second I saw these images that you were doing with the cutouts, that was what I was referring to earlier. Like, I've known this to be a Rankin project, so it's cool that you absolutely recognise that. And yeah, again, it's hard for me to comment because it's such a personal image. You obviously have your narrative for it. I can't really say what you're trying to achieve and have a critique on it, because that would be just wrong, because it's your image. So yeah, if I was to say anything, and this is something I'm going to bring up later, which is where you do need to look at Photoshop, is I think I've noticed it before from images you've tagged me on Purple Port, is you over sharpen. There's just slightly over sharpen. I mean, I've done it in the past so many times as well, but I've noticed on some images you really over sharpen, and that's one thing in terms of photography I would ask you to look at. In black and white images, especially like where you want to bring out the freckles and they're really gritty and really low key. I think there's one of Darren later that can look really good, but I think in colour images, when you've got a feminine character and everything's just too sharp, like too sharp, like the strands of hair cutting like a razor, then I think that's probably just a touch too much. So yeah, again, I'm not sure what I can say. I was going to mention that I recognise it as a Rankin kind of concept, but yeah, I fully expected you to put your own narrative on it and have a meaning behind it for you to do it, because I'm fully aware how you shoot. And thank you, by the way, for naming images, and because if you gave me this waffle and you didn't name the images, I probably would struggle to find which one you're talking about at any one time and do so with any kind of precision. So the next one I have here, because I've downloaded in a different order as well, which doesn't help. Next one here is Nuclear, which you know I like. I like these, it's good fun. So, Nuclear family. The 50s were an idyllic time of 2.4 children and a white picket fence home. Mum and Pop and apple pie, when all was well with the world. America, was that the thing in the UK? White picket fence, and apple pie? Well, apart from the whole nearly ending all life on Earth thing, same model and shoot. Okay, so this is referencing, yeah, a different one he's put up. So like I said, it came down in a different order. So yeah, you know I like this. I think this is really fun. This is my kind of vibe. This is the kind of thing I'd enjoy shooting. Just, yeah, just quirky, just silly and weird and interesting, and people are going to be like, what the fuck? And yeah, that's just my jam. I like that kind of vibe. It just is fun. Photos should be fun as well. I mean, I'm all for the philosophy and psychology, but they should be fun. And if you can do them fun and have philosophy, psychology, and different layers, I love different layers to a meaning. I've always said that the best photography is photography that allows the viewer to make up their own mind, whether they put a layered narrative on it or they just see it so blatantly for what it is and they don't choose to explore it anymore. It's all about the interpretation of the viewer. For me, that is what photography is. It's enjoyable. That's what I like about portraiture, as I said with Tim's video. Hope I have here up next, and that is, oh, it's Darren. Hope. It's there, almost just out of reach. Yet there is light. It's a mosquito. I did wonder what it was. Mosquito. An odd choice for a hope, maybe, but could it be an angel or a cross or whatever you'd like it to be, or just something that will be stuck or just something that will suck the blood from you. Yeah, so again, model Darren at Splash Point, he's obviously extended the top of the image massively because he shot it on a black backdrop, which is only probably about a foot higher than Darren. Funny enough, as I mentioned, when I was like, is it mosquito? I did question what it was, and I kind of had in my mind that you're going to have some deep, meaningful aspect to it, because I know you. I like the fact you put your little beam of light onto it as well, obviously, because technically speaking, it needs that to obviously illuminate. Not that, I suppose, you haven't got that beam of light necessarily on Darren, so it doesn't necessarily technically need to be there, but I love the way it kind of spreads as it hits mosquito. And you would get that fall off, and then of course it would hit Darren from the exact light. So you're technically thinking about the way the light's coming in, which is obviously how you need to execute such a photoshopped image, because the worst thing you can do in Photoshop is have a great idea and then have a bunch of different lighting angles from a composite that contradict one another. But yeah, and exactly what I said earlier, you leave it up to the viewer to decide, that they can interpret what it is and why it is as they see fit from looking at the image. So yeah, again, I may not be a fan of Photoshop, but I absolutely am on your concept. I completely get it. It's definitely what I love about photography. Class clown. Both Laura and I were bullied at school and played the class joker to be laughed with rather than at. The writing on the body was created by an MUA carved into prosthetic flesh. Interesting, because I genuinely thought that was a Photoshop jobby, so it's interesting that you've pointed out that it's prosthetics. See, that's more my jam. I like to do, when I say in camera, I like to do the stuff in camera because I consider myself a photographer rather than a digital artist. So I kind of define the two as two separate roles. So if I say I'm doing something in camera, I don't necessarily say I'm not editing it. I am just doing all the fantasy work, all the quirky, all the crazy, all the makeup in camera. I'm still going to put my little contrast, I'm going to clean up the skin, I'm going to do whatever needs to be done to make a professional portrait image. So yeah, that's one way of two people can quantify shooting out of camera differently. I still process an image, definitely. But yeah, I would definitely say you Photoshop that prosthetic now, right? Because you definitely give it some beans in the old processing. I do like the words in the background as well. Again, this is what I like about your Photoshop as well, is it doesn't look like you've just stuck words on a background. If I was to do that, I think the words would just feel out of place, but because you're more into Photoshop than me, you've got the blend right. It just feels like a cohesive image. It doesn't feel like you've put layers of stuff on top of each other that aren't quite sitting right. Yeah, again, it's a personal concept to you, so I can't really go around commenting on it. I can't tell you to clean up parts of the image because it's obviously supposed to be raw. Yeah, I like it. Like you say, now you've explained it, sticks and stones, bullying, been a class clown, you've got obviously both elements. I'm intrigued. Would I have words will never hurt me? Yeah, so I probably would have taken that away if I didn't see your explanation. I probably maybe would have made the class clown connection. But again, that's not because it isn't well done. That's just because I probably wouldn't have thought of it. So yeah, I'm all for that. Again, Sophia, part of your crazy... In fact, I'm not going to say what it is because I'm going to let you say what it is. Another relationship down the drain. I like the aesthetic of pin-up style images that wonder about the way they portray women. It can be a bit get in the kitchen and look sexy, love. So this is a take on the genre and a rather invented power dynamic, while hopefully not being too po-faced vicar about it. So yeah, based on the fact I know you've done a similar shoot of mine, I'm pretty sure those legs are mannequin legs and it's legit. So I imagine obviously you've put I'm assuming you've put a kind of, yeah, you have definitely. You've put like a layered kind of mottled, back in school we used to teabag paper and you used to get that mottled kind of dirty old school look, and then you used to draw a map on it and make it look like a pirate's map. In Photoshop you can do a similar thing where you have like this mottled kind of, why am I struggling with the word? Let's just call it a mottled layer, and then you put it on and then you overlay it is the word I'm probably looking for, with a a blend, and you get this kind of old school kind of effect, which you can see on your image. I'm assuming it is that, and Sophia doesn't just have like really dirty pink walls. You obviously put your blood on again, and much the same with Tim's blood. I like it because it's very B-movie. It reminds me of like Grindhouse, like when Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez did their kind of collaboration, and you know the blood's fake, and it's supposed to look fake. It's just a vibe. I like it. So yeah, very cool. You know I like this series. It's probably my favourite series you do. I do enjoy it. Let's keep moving along. Again, I can't really point out anything about the lighting and stuff. It's just a great image. And I'll tell you what I do like. I don't know if you've put it in there or it was there. I want to say you put it in there in post, but I could be wrong. I like the rubber ducky on the bath. See, that's the kind of thing that would amuse me. Adam. God damn, this one's wide.
Sorry, Father.
What are we calling this one? Friend of my shadow. Because being friends with your own darkness is good for you. Okay, simple. I like it. I remember you explaining this to me about him reaching out to his own shadow. Yeah, and being on the floor. You told me pretty much everything you were hoping to achieve with this image, and I think you've achieved it, so I can't really complain there. It looks natural, it looks legit. I would say, see, this is where I probably need the cursor. I would say there's quite a hard line underneath his shadow, just directly to our camera left, to his right, and then you see it gets soft and fade. And I don't know if that's your Photoshop or it's just a natural way of the infinity curve, because it probably would have been easier, as we said at the time, to do it on an L-shaped wall. Doing it on an infinity curve, you do get that kind of fall off the shadow a lot different, but you've obviously made it work, so that's all that matters. Yeah, I'm intrigued whether I'm right with that, because I would say that, if I'm being harsh, it needs just a touch extra work in Photoshop, but I like it. I like the concept. I think other than that, at a glance, as an image, you've nailed it. I'm only picking it out because I've got to pick something out, right, because I'm here to critique images. So, Angel. I read this out earlier because I wasn't sure if you were referring to the last image, so now this makes sense. The angel, I wasn't sure if angel was a person for some reason, because it reads as inspired by Rankin and angel, but on different lines, so you know. So yeah, the same idea of the element of the projection of our own ideas onto other people, seeing them as we make them. So yeah, again, personal image. I can't really comment how you see her as an angel, or if you don't see her as an angel, or because she's alternative and tattooed, you're trying to say that you shouldn't judge a book by its cover and she is an angel. It's again obviously a narrative that is yeah, open for interpretation and personal to you. So again, it's one that the viewer can look at and make their own decision, especially after sometimes it's great to give just that little bit of info about a picture in terms as an artist. See, I always say I don't like to dictate, because if you dictate, then people have made up their own mind before they've even had a chance to think about it, and I like people to think about an image. So I just give them just enough to put them on the right path, and then they can question the rest. Can be really useful. Bauhaus. Mostly just an exercise in colour and shape and exploring the art style, but with conceptual undertone of how being part of an art movement or style both gives people an individual identity and subsumes them into a collective. So again, what I said earlier, I love layered narratives. You know, it's one thing having an idea, as you said, it's just an exercise in colour and shape, and then there's this narrative, and then the viewer can look further into it, they can think about it, and they can understand it more. And that is, again, what I love about photography. It's one thing having an image that goes, this is a cool aesthetic, this is what is happening, but then there could be like so many different sub-concepts that kind of trickle down from the initial narrative, that if you really think about it, it's quite a clever image. Anyway, you're all individuals. I'm not an individual, like for Brian. Model is his wife, and it is a Libra. Makeup. Okay, so earlier when I said the model was lipstick horror, it wasn't. It is his wife, but the makeup was done by lipstick horror. So I imagine the class clown is again Rich's wife. which would obviously make these two images even more personal because he's got a personal connection to him as well in terms of it being his missus. So, yeah, in terms, again, I can't really comment. It's an exceptionally colourful image. And like you say, I think you've said all you can say there. It's definitely eye-catching, but without a personal connection to it, without wanting to explore the narrative, I really can't critique it in any way whatsoever. Blowing in the Wind, is this one I have saved, or is this one you have given me? I think this is one I have saved. So I'm going to pull up a few now. Thankfully, you have indeed give these titles as well. Oh no, there we go. Blowing in the Wind. So again, not into Photoshop, but I like it. Like I said earlier, what I appreciate with your Photoshop is if you're going to do Photoshop, you've got to do it right, and it's just a great image in terms of Photoshop. If I did this, I would probably look at it and be like, meh, it's not me, it's not my vibe. But to see someone else do it, I don't have that self-critique, so I can appreciate it so much more. What would I do differently just because it's me? If anything, it's not quite square, it's not quite rectangular. You could bring it down and make it more rectangular, but I don't think you need to, because you've obviously chosen that crop for your own personal reasons, and it's none of my business as to why you're doing it. There's no real technical execution as to why you need to crop it in more. It's just personal choice. I mean, if you were to stick it in a gallery, you could print it in whatever size you wanted, really. I'm not sure the printers would be particularly happy with you, but I'm sure if you had enough budget and you could do what you like. Time to Die. So black and white, you got the gun again. This is what I mean about over sharpening. This image, I would say, ordinarily would be over sharpened, but because it's a black and white, quite punchy, edgy image, I think it works. I think this is where the over sharpening works. If I was to be critical, I find the hair distracting. And again, that might be a personal thing, because I remember when I first started shooting, people, a photographer I've done studio days with, he'll be like, I always soften the hair a bit. So maybe it's just something I look for, because I find that very single strands of hair really, really sharp and distracting. Yeah, if it were me, I would say his hair with the sheen maybe just steals the limelight a bit, because it's so sharp. I mean, the picture's brilliant, so you're never going to go, oh, look, hair. But if you look at the image, then you kind of go, eyes, oh, hair, hair, hair. And that's one thing I'd probably look out for. Maybe just soften the hair a bit. Again, just being ultra critical for absolutely no reason. Okay, this one of Caitlin, I've pulled up just because this is a perfect example for me of over sharpening. Yeah, I think she is just way too sharp, honestly, for this style of image. I think being a colour image, I know you've probably, it looks like you've desaturated it in some means of form. I mean, the reds are popping, so maybe you desaturate the skin. I think you've desaturated everything and then just pulled the reds up afterwards, and then you've sharpened it to the nth degree. And I think that nth degree for a female model is touched too much. Again, the hair is very cutting, but I brought these up specifically because these are the ones that you probably tagged me in on Purple Point. I thought, geez, it's a bit too much in the old sharpening. So if you take anything from this, it's that I love your Photoshop, even if I'm not into Photoshop, but just tone down the sharpening just a wee touch, for my taste anyway. This image of a derelict building, an owl, again, obviously I'm assuming 100% the owl is photoshopped in. It's just a cool image. I love the hair flick. She's cool. I looked at the other images from the set, and older model, diverse. It's just cool. It's nice that you work in that and looking into diversity and such. Suki, final. So this is her with a chessboard. So I'm intrigued by this because I scrolled down, and further down it said that some of the images were AI, and my thoughts on this image was it isn't AI. Again, I would say it looks a touch over sharpened. Maybe the lighting could be slightly better. I say that just because, I don't know, I find it unsettling, but it's an unsettling image, so it's a difficult, I would say. The lighting in terms of it being unsettling is great, but I think the aesthetics are just a bit lost, and I'm trying to put my finger on that, whether it's the lighting, I think it's the lighting, or it might be, again, somewhat to do with the sharpening. I think maybe it's a bit too on the nose. But again, it's unsettling, and that was the vibe you were going for. I don't really know how to quantify what I'm trying to say. Well, I hope you've done it in camera, because this is what I mean when it comes to shooting in camera. This is the kind of thing I would choose to do in camera. I would choose to have the narrative and the fantasy in camera rather than fake it afterwards. I think there's many things you can do in camera. Obviously, there's many things that budgets don't allow, and if you want to explore that by doing fancy stuff, then obviously that is completely your prerogative. It's completely, that was cross between prerogative and priority. That's completely up to you. It's just not something I would do. I like being a photographer. I like getting in down and dirty with real props, real concepts, rather than just doing it in post, because I don't consider myself a photoshopper. Darren, again, another image I wanted to bring up just because that over sharpening kind of works here. Yeah, this is the kind of image you can really push the sharpness out, those really hard contrasts. I think, is it a clarity or is it a sharpness, or is it a bit of both? I would say those other images were definitely too sharp. Whether that is partly down to the clarity, I don't know, but these black and white images, you can certainly crank a bit more clarity, a bit more contrast, and a bit more sharpness, and they just have a vibe, they just work. It's probably less feminine, and it probably doesn't work so well in colour, which is where I would, again, a desaturated image of Elle, I would say this image, too sharp. I appreciate she's waving a gun around, so it's a bit kind of badass bitch, but I don't know if you want it to look illustrative, and that is why you've cranked the, I'm going to say clarity, maybe you have cranked the clarity as well, and the sharpness, but I think it's just too much, because it does go from looking like a photograph to being fake. And as you said, you aren't too worried about fake, so if you enjoy that aspect of Photoshop, then that is absolutely fine. And I just brought this one up because I love a wide angle lens. I can't remember if I lent you my wide angle lens for this, but I love a wide angle lens, so yeah, happy days. I don't know if that was any use to you. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you don't think I'm an arsehole for pointing out all the things I don't like about Photoshop, and hopefully you don't think I'm an arsehole for pointing out the sharpness thing. And I don't know if you intend on changing it, or it's something you would consider now. You obviously do not have to. It's completely up to you. I don't want to do these critiques and be harsh on people for the sake of being harsh on people. I don't want to force my opinion on people in terms of my preferences. I will try and consider it from a technical aspect, and from a technical aspect, the only thing I can really say is just look out for that sharpness, because everything else is completely personal. You may like that as a personal choice, but at technical level, I would say it's too much. Yeah, hopefully people enjoyed this. Let me know if you do. Comment, like, subscribe, all that kind of thing. Yeah, it really helps. Just helps grow the channel. And then if you want to send in images to do something similar to this and let me critique your images, again, I will be as pleasant as I've been with this and with Tim's. I know sometimes I come across as a bit cocky and funny and forward, and some people don't take that well. Some people just don't understand humour, as I've seen in shorts recently. So yeah, if you want to send in some pictures, I will be polite, but I'll try and pull out a few technical aspects. And yeah, I tried to keep this video shorter, and it's probably longer. So yeah, send me pictures. Go on @SplashPointPhoto on Instagram. I will send you an email address. Yeah, and I'll do the same for you. We'll smash out another 20-30 minute video and see what happens. Peace.